Hi, my name's Steve, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about what blocks our life force. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I talk about auric fields, EMFs, radiance. These are all energies that are invisible but are part of our human body. And one of the most powerful magnetic fields that get generated in the body is from the heart. So at the end of the day, we're these energetic possibilities, we're these spiritual beings in these bodies, but we've got energy that uh, tell us, get us certain information, certain perceptions, certain worldviews. That's why we've got like such a disparity in human beings' belief systems, is because of the energy that's present in those bodies. So one of the things I want to focus in on this video specifically is the energy that gets blocked, and it blocks our life force. So you know that, for example, when you hang around people that uplift you, your energy changes, right? Or if you read certain books, your energy changes. And you also know when you hang around with other people, maybe coworkers, maybe certain family members, your energy drops. You can feel the difference. And so that's your life force energy. But in a lot of cases, we block our energy unconsciously. And I want to talk about how we do that, why we do it in this video. And at the end, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to release it. So the short answer of what blocks our energy force, the short answer is we do. And let me illustrate with an example. So I started working with this guy who's in construction. Okay, I'm not going to mention his name. I'm going to use David as his name. So David and I are working together, and he's going through a horrible divorce. He's got two young kids, and and I think it was like 7 and 9. And these kids are basically spending half their time with their mom and half their time with the dad. And the dad is David, this guy that I'm working with. And so it's Sunday night. He's having a horrible night. He's like having this crazy anxiety. He's like, he doesn't know what to do with himself. His emotions are all over the place. And he's been going through this divorce for 2 years, and he hasn't seen his wife in 2 years, okay? And basically the way that they manage their relationship is through this text platform where they text each other so that lawyers can actually monitor the whole process of like what's being said in the conversation. And that's how he talks with her. It's crazy. So he gets this kind of tipping point on Sunday, and he messages me and he's like, this is not a good time for me to talk. And I was like, this is the perfect time for us to talk because he was very highly emotional, and he knew it. And he was going through a lot of anxiety and some fears and just lots of crap. So I took him through this process. I won't explain it in detail, but basically I took him through this process, this meditation. And when we came out the end of it, I said, how do you feel? And he says, I feel love. Like everything had just melted away. He just like, I just feel love. And I was like, great. So the heart was open, right? The heart's opened up. And 2 days later, I talked to him, and he said that he bumped into his ex-wife. He saw her for the first time in 2 years, and he apologized to her for it being so difficult during this separation. And she apologized to him. And she just happened to bump into him because she was going to pick up the kids, and she was there. And it was the first time in 2 years she'd seen him. And then that started to help them resolve their relationship. So, and it made him feel a lot better too. So what happens is we get these heart, I'm going to call it a heart barrier. Okay, so why does this happen? Why do we get these heart barriers? What happens is information comes in through our five senses that we don't agree with, and we resist it. And then when we resist it, we go from a super coherent heart energetic state where you've got like EMFs coming off you, high frequency, 5 hertz, whatever, arbitrary number you're using. And then all of a sudden the information comes in, we don't agree with it, we resist it, we push down the emotions, and then that information and emotion gets stored in the body, and then it closes the heart. And then all of a sudden the frequency of your body changes and your life force diminishes. Okay? So the information comes in, You get information coming in all the time. This doesn't happen all the time. It's just that 1 billionth of a piece of information comes in. You don't agree with it. You resist. You push the emotions down, and then that information gets stored in the body and that emotion. And basically, it gets stored with emotion, meaning it gets stored with pain. So to release it, you got to go through the pain again. Okay, whatever, if it's the heart or this heaviness you feel or this anxiety you have, it's going to initiate that the pain that it was stored with is the pain that must be released when you actually release it. It's temporary. It might burn a little bit, but it'll go away. So this is what happens. Now, this is really important. When you go from here to here, right? And this could have happened when you were 5. It could have happened like last month. And then sometimes you kind of go like, oh, well, but I'm fine today. But then something triggers you again, and all of a sudden the information gets triggered, and then you're back here. You go from open heart back to closed heart again. And you wonder why. Well, what happens is when you store this information and emotion inside the body, it creates a worldview. It changes your worldview. Okay? So your worldview completely changes. And you start to act and behave and perceive from this worldview. And then we start to tell ourselves stories. And the stories that we tell ourselves, we believe. Okay? Now let me give you an example. So I had this director of engineering, this is a few years back, that I worked with. He said, you can't trust other people. I remember I just started the job, and he's like, you can't trust other people. I was like, it's to myself. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, I always trust people implicitly to begin with. Then you got to do something a couple times to lose my trust. But in the beginning, I always trust people. So it was very, very counter to my belief system. I'm not saying mine's right and his is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a very limiting and disempowering worldview and belief system that you can't trust other people. Now here's why this happens. When you store the information and the emotion, this energy in the body, you create a worldview, this belief system. And when you create the belief system, you then start to experience things like, for example, this director, what he would do, he's like, you can't trust other people. He goes, let me give you an example. He goes, the other day, he goes, I was like, did this project, and then I went away on a couple days vacation. I came back, and the whole project was screwed up. So I see, you can't trust people. And so he has experiences to back up that you can't trust people. But remember, it's because in the beginning what happened is he stored that information, emotion. Something triggered him. He resisted it. And then what happens is by resisting that emotion, he keeps it alive in his body, and that information and emotion continues to project outward. So you're creating your entire reality with this new world view. But it's self-created. Okay? Now, how do you release the barrier? So there's 3 conditions that have to be present if you want to go back and release the original barrier that cause the heart to condense and lose your life force. And one is you have to be willing to let it go, which means you're going to have to experience the emotion again, even though you don't like it. Okay? And if you're not willing to do that, then that condition has to be present. You don't have to do it right now to let it go right now, but you have to be willing to do it. Okay? That's it. Number 2, you want to get into a deep trance. And what I mean by that is in a deep state where you feel like your body and everything's energy. You don't feel like your body. Like right now, if you knock on your desk or something, I knock on this desk, everything feels like solid, material, physical 3D reality. We're going to go into a state where you access your unconscious mind, where you feel the opposite of that, where everything feels connected. Okay? These are deep states of meditation. I bring my clients through them. So that's got to be the second thing that's present. And then the third is you have to be willing to let go. And the way to think of this is that you can keep your life the way it is. Okay, like let's say you're living in this life force depleted state. You can have the life that you have right now, and you can have it for the rest of your life. But if you want the new life back, where you're in a super coherent state, you're super sensitive to the world around you, but you're also very intuitive, life gets magical. You can have this life. So this is the new life, and this is your current life. If you want the new life that you want to create all the things that you want to create, you have to let go of the thing that's got stored in your body. And if you're not willing to let go, that's fine, but you get to have your old life back. And so what I do is I take people through that process and then help them let go. And then once they do, like David, that construction worker, things change very dramatically within a couple days. Because he changed, because his life force energy changed. Okay? So What blocks our life force is our own, we're not educated and realize we're creating the block. It's not like something outside of us is trying to block us. We're doing it to ourselves. And then secondly is that once you realize that you're the one that's doing it, then you can be a little bit more aware of when something triggers you, what to do about it if it does trigger you, so that you can let it go in the moment. Because as a kind of physical, or I should say metaphysical rule of thumb, when you get triggered by an emotion, boss at work, someone in the family, close colleague, a really close friend, and you get triggered by something, and then all of a sudden the heart starts to shrink, meaning that field and your life force starts to dissipate and go away. You're giving your energy away. It's like you're just giving it away. What happens is you feel sapped. You got a choice in that moment to let it go right away. The longer you wait to let it go, the harder it is to get back to this state. Okay, so let me just say that again. If something happens, okay, you're in this fully super coherent state, life's good, you feel very peaceful, you feel very centered, you feel grounded, you feel fantastic, you feel a state of joy. Okay, you're having fun with life. Okay, this is where we're meant to be all the time, by the way. Okay, but what happens is people aren't educated in realizing that when something triggers you, you can store the energy by resisting and pushing down the emotions, which is what 99% of people do. And then that information and emotion gets stored in the body, and then you continue to resist it, and life changes. You're not as joyous. You got to work harder to have fun. You're more desensitized to life. And that's not the way we're meant to live. The way you're meant to live is this way all the time. So once something happens that triggers you, you've got two choices, right? You can either push it down, resist, or recognize it's happening in the moment or a few moments later, and then let it go very quickly. Now, if you don't, what happens is, and it's like a month later, and you hadn't realized that was what triggered you, then what happens is it's going to take more effort in order to release that emotion, that barrier around the heart, so you can get back to this optimal state, which is why I said you need those three conditions. A, you got to be willing to do it. B, you have to be access to the subconscious mind, which is what I do, a deep, deep trance meditation. And C, you got to be willing to embrace your new life. So you got to be willing to be like, okay, I want this back. I want to be back in this optimal state. I don't want to be over here because it's less than me, right? It's like a part of you is missing when you're in this state. You feel like there's two parts of you in a lot of cases. Because I remember working as an engineer, I feel like this duality inside. I feel like a part of me really has these dreams to be an entrepreneur and write books. And then the other side of me was like, I don't even know if I can do that. Well, that's what happens when you have these stored barriers around the heart. It diminishes the information that you're looking for to create the reality you want. In this state, everything happens very effortless. So it's always becoming about getting very aware of what's blocking your life force. And it's like, it could be certain people in your life. In my life, it's really interesting. It's always been for the longest time, it was my dad. It was my dad. The last 10 years, not my dad. My dad, I laugh now with the stuff that we talk about. And then, at some point it was my wife. It was always like something she would say would trigger me. Again, I'm still realizing that there's some things that she says that will trigger me. It has nothing to do with her. It has to do with me. It blocks my life force. And so I become aware of it. And what I'm saying is, the longer you take time to become aware that this energy life force is being blocked, then the more work it takes to let it go. Okay? But if you recognize it in the moment, you can let it go in that moment. There might be a little burning sensation in the chest or whatever it is, but then it's gone. Okay? So that's just like a metaphysical rule of thumb, is that if the longer you wait to let it go, the more energy it's going to take to release it. Which is why in a lot of cases I work with clients, is because they need my energy to entangle with their energy to help them release, because they can't do it on their own. And I was the same way when I met Susan James 11, 12 years ago. And she gave me the initial kind of foundation on how to do this process. and then I kind of developed it and made it my own. But the key was I needed the energy of someone else to help entangle with my energy in order to be able to let go and get back into these optimal states. So, like I was saying, when these things get triggered inside of us, our worldview changes. We get these beliefs, and we think they're true. Like, you can't trust other people. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying it shrinks your world. It's not a very empowering worldview. It's a disempowering worldview. Your life gets smaller and smaller the longer you believe that. And there's other beliefs like that. But these beliefs come from the information and emotion that gets stored in the body. That's key. And as soon as you let go of it, what happens is your worldview changes, you get coherent again, and your memories of the experience even change. And I'll give you an example of that. So Lauren, who's left me a video testimonial on my YouTube channel, she and I worked 2 sessions. In the second session, we were dealing with some stuff around one of her parents. And she had this very, we'll just say, skewed memory of one of her parents. After we went through and released the emotion, the information, her perception of that parent changed. And it changed so dramatically that she actually felt sorry for them because of the way that she was treated when she was younger. So the key thing is to recognize is that once you store this emotion inside it, it changes your perception and your beliefs and your worldview. If you want to open up your worldview to what's possible, then you've got to go back, find out where it is in the body, be willing to let it go, and be willing to have your old life or your new life back. And when you do that, then what happens is your entire perception changes. Okay? Now, if you want my help to do this with you, I do offer this. I've been doing it for 10 years. I've done it with family members, different people. And what I do is basically on this call, I would get in a call with you and I got to determine, is this something that I can help you release? And we determine where it is in the body. I actually do that with you, that exercise with you for free. And then at the end of that call, we determine if we can work together, if this is something that I can actually help you do, because I have a guarantee that it's going to work. I've never had a client pay me where we weren't able to release that barrier ever, which is why I guarantee it. So there's a cost to do that if you decide to proceed and go through these sessions with me, and it's not like a lot of money, to be honest, but I'm happy to do that with you. Okay, there's a link down below to my calendar if that's something you're interested in doing. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for being a subscriber. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you think that someone else might benefit from listening to it or watching it, please share it with them. Okay, thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber. My name's Steve, and I'll talk to you next time.